Hello and welcome back to How Do You Play Caves of Qud? In today's lesson, we will cover items and equipment and finish one of our quests. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. First, let's talk about the value of an item. One water skin holds 64 drams and weighs 17 pounds when full. So this means that 1 dram weighs about a fourth of a pound. This means that if something weighs 1 pound, then it should equal roughly 4 drams to be worth the same as water. Right now, water is worth its weight in water, and we could use the extra currency, so it's worth going to some extra trouble to scrounge. This does not mean pick up everything. You will immediately find yourself over-encumbered, which is obviously no good. So we pick and choose. We pick up items which have a good value to weight ratio. As a good rule of thumb, the lighter something is, the higher its value to weight ratio will tend to be. Obviously. But even at 1 pound, not everything is worth taking. This is one of those things you'll have to learn as you go. There are a lot of items in Qud. But if you need a general rule, armor tends to not be worth its weight, unless it's made of very exotic material. You'll know when you see it. Most weapons in the 1 to 3 pound range are good trade fodder. Modifications don't matter as much as material. You could find yourself an electrified mace, but it's still not worth a lot if it's made of bronze. If this is something you don't really want to think about, you can always install the Qud UX mod, which optionally tells you the value to weight ratio of items. I covered it in my 6 mods I can't play Qud without, shameless plug. But what other values do items hold besides water? Well, besides being worth selling, items can give you knowledge of the world, and even teach you secrets of the sultans. You don't have to take these items to learn this knowledge. You can just press L to look at them. Items and equipment can also give you reputation. I like to keep a few of these, even if they aren't particularly good pieces of equipment. I would say take any equipment which has some rep. You can store them somewhere safe and pull them out for future use. As long as we're talking about armor, let's talk about armor stats. All armor has an AV and a DV. AV is your armor value and DV is your dodge value. All weapons have a PV, or penetration value, and a damage value. The damage value takes the form of a roll of dice. For instance, our current weapon, a steel hand axe, has a pen of 6 and a damage value of 1d3 plus 1, meaning when an attack with it lands, the game is rolling a 3-sided dice and adding 1 to the result. Just to be painfully clear, the most damage we can do with a single pen is 4, and the least damage we can do is 2. What do I mean by a pen? Basically, whenever you throw an attack at a creature, whether or not you hit is based on their dodge value. But once your attack lands, then your chance of penetrating will be based on your penetration value versus their armor value. If you have enough penetration to match their armor value, then you'll do 1 pen. But if your penetration value highly exceeds their armor value, then you'll be able to penetrate multiple times. Get your head out of the gutter. So what does this all mean? It means that having higher AV means taking less damage, but having a higher DV means maybe taking no damage. Generally, if armor has high AV, it has it by reducing the player's DV. Conversely, armor that has a high DV stat does so at the cost of AV. So you might wonder, do we make a choice here? Choose AV or DV to build up? No. I created a high DV character because it helps make the very early game a little gentler. Right now we have a DV of 15, which means we have a good chance of dodging arrows and attacks of all kinds. But this will not last, and eventually our luck will run out. We will take a hit. You might think that as long as we keep increasing our DV, we will never take a hit. Having a high DV gives us better odds, but it's always a dice roll. So no, I don't believe you should choose AV or DV. I think in all runs, you should build up your AV, because at a certain point, getting unlucky and taking a hit can mean your death. Having a high DV in the beginning means you can comfortably build up your AV without tanking your DV. So you will still dodge the occasional arrow, but when you get hit, you'll be able to take it. That was a lot. And like I said, I don't think knowing how the numbers work makes a big difference. You can play Qud and just make your numbers bigger, but having a little insight might help you plan accordingly. You'll have to forgive me, I didn't look at the creature here. That's because I knew exactly what it was. This is the Gershling, a miserable little spider-adjacent critter. It's a mean creature and tears into us pretty good. I have some witchwood bark left, so we have plan Bs if we need them. I knew this creature was melee, so I retreated slightly. If I can put this creature into a situation where I can fire on it, I have an advantage. I took a risk here and sprinted, but with the intention of committing to the kill. This would mean if we actually had to run, we wouldn't have sprint off cooldown. But getting a couple of free shots was worth it to me. I should have taken my witchwood bark here, as a safety precaution. For context, witchwood bark heals a minimum of 25 HP, so if you've taken about 25 HP worth of damage, you may as well take it. Witchwood bark is cheap. Safety first. It worked out, but do as I say and not as I do. If you've been reading the quest info, you know this already, but you'll need to bring back the Gershling corpse in order to complete the quest. Now I do venture a little deeper, but immediately find myself squared up with another Gershling, so I decide to cut and run since we got what we came for. We can always come back later and clean up, if it's really worth it to us. Once back, we can actually complete a quest. Talk to Iridad and show him the corpse. They will offer you a lot of info on the subject. Even if story isn't why you're here, I recommend you go through all of the dialogue trees in Qud. There isn't a lot of talking in Qud, and there will come a moment where you will wish there was more. It kind of gets lonesome in the wastes. Once I'm done learning about Gershlings, I decide to share a dram with Iridad, namely so I can talk to them about secrets. You know secrets, one of the forms of progression I mentioned. Whenever you find something interesting in Qud, it gets logged in your journal as a secret. There are a lot of different kinds of secrets. The location of a farm or a trading caravan, maybe even the whereabouts of a special mushroom which creates lava. You can trade up to 2 secrets with anyone you share a dram with for some extra reputation, and with that added reputation you can then ask for some more secrets. This can prove as a decent way to find out about interesting new locations to scout out, once we need to grind for the next story quest. Once you're done gathering information, we'll cap this episode by selling our loot. This is a loop we will often find ourselves in. Come back, sell the cac, buy some trade, continue to pillage and raid. The best thing I can tell you when it comes to buying items is, well, not to sound like a broken record, but use the L key to look. If you aren't sure what something is, the game has no qualms about telling you. And hey, it costs you nothing. You can even gain some Sultan lore from doing so. Anything engraved or painted is actually painted with lore, and therefore worth looking at. Sell all the useless equipment you looted and buy some copper nuggets. Copper nuggets are trade, meaning they yield the same currency when buying or selling them, so they are a good way to convert your heavy water into something light and shiny. They aren't the only form of trade good. Making money in Qud will be a process of selling a lot of heavy stuff for less heavy trade, and then, if we continue to survive, sell our less heavy trade for light and valuable trade. Eventually we will have enough stuff that we can trade for some of the big boy gear, and then the process will begin again. I actually forego the trade here in order to buy a musket. Bows are nice, but you can't beat the accuracy of a rifle. Yes, I know, we cowboy, but still, we haven't found a pistol. Okay, gosh, this video got out of control. There's a lot of basics to cover, especially for equipment, and to be honest, I haven't scratched the surface. To recap, try to pick up items with good value to weight ratio. Daggers and short blades are good for this. Armor isn't. Some armor has reputation. Look at stuff if you aren't sure what it does. DV gives you better odds of dodging attacks. AV reduces damage taken when compared to the PV of what you hit. You should always slowly build your AV over the course in your run. Do not rely on DV. All weapons have PV, or penetration value. Higher penetration value means better damage compared to the target's AV. All weapons have a damage rating based on a roll of dice. Engraved and painted items have important info. Look at them. It costs nothing to look at them in a trade. Trading reputation, you can gather secrets and information. You can also trade information for more reputation. This is limited to twice per water bonded friendly. Sell your junk and buy trade. Nuggets are a good source as they sell for as much as they buy. On the next episode, we will take our next quest, talk artifacts and map exploration, as well as some good ways to safely grind more progression. Hope you enjoyed this and found it informative. If you did, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time for some more CUD content.